The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, a classic vintage by John Boyne. Chapter 1st. Bruno makes a discovery. One afternoon, when Bruno came home from school, he was surprised to find Maria, the family's maid, who always kept her head bowed and never looked up from the carpet, standing in his bedroom, pulling all his belongings out of the wardrobe and packing them in four large wooden carrots. Even the things he'd hidden at the back and that belonged to him and nobody else's business. "What are you doing?" he asked in as polite a tone as it could muster. For although he wasn't happy to come home and find someone is going through his possessions, his mother had always told him that he was to treat Maria respectfully and not just imitate the way father spoke to her. "You take your hands off my thing." Maria shook her head and pointed towards the staircase behind him, where Bruno's mother had just appeared. She was a tall woman with long red hairs that she bundled into a short of net behind her head, and was twisting her hand together nervously as if there was something she didn't want to have to say or something she didn't want to have to believe. "Mother," said Bruno, marching toward her, "what's going on? Why is Maria going through my things?" "She's packing them," explained Mother. "Packing them?" he asked, running quickly through the events of the previous days to consider whether he'd been particularly naughty or had used those words out loud that he wasn't allowed to use and was being sent away because of it. He couldn't think of anything though. In fact, over the last few days, he had behaved in a perfectly decent manner to everyone and couldn't remember causing any chaos at all. "Why?" he asked then. "What have I done?" Mother had walked into her own bedroom by then, but Lars, the butler, was in there, packing her things too. She sighed and threw her hands in the air in frustration before marching back to the staircase, followed by Bruno, who wasn't going to let the matter drop without an explanation. "Mother," he insisted, "what's going on? Are we moving?" "Come downstairs with me," said Mother, leading the way toward the large dining room where the furry had been to dinner the week before. "We'll talk down there." Bruno ran downstairs and even passed her out on the staircase so that he was waiting in the dining room when she arrived. He looked at her without saying anything from a moment, and thought to himself that she couldn't have applied her makeup correctly that morning because the rims of her eyes were more red than usual, like his own, after he'd been causing chaos and got into trouble and end up crying. "Now, you don't have to worry, Bruno," said Mother, sitting down in the chair where the beautiful blonde woman who had come to the dinner with Fury had sat and waved at him when Father closed the doors. "In fact, if anything, it's going to be great adventure." "What is?" he asked. "Am I being sent away?" "No, not just you," she said, looking as if she might smile for a moment but thinking better of it. "We all are, your father and I, Gretel and you, all four of us." Bruno thought about this and frowned. He wasn't particularly bothered if Gretel was being sent away because she was a hopeless case and caused nothing but trouble for him. But it seemed a little unfair that they all had to go with her. "But where?" he asked. "Where are we going exactly? Why can't we just stay here?" "Your father's job," explained Mother. "You know how important it is, don't you?" "Yes, of course," said Bruno, nodding his head, because there were always so many visitors to the house, men in fantastic uniforms, women with typewriters that he had to keep his mucky hands off, and they were always very polite to Father, and told each other that he was a man to watch and that Fury had big things in mind for him. Well, sometimes when someone is very important, continued Mother, the man who kept employs him asks him to go somewhere else because there's a very special job that needs doing there. What kind of job? Asked Bruno. Because if he was honest with himself, which he always tries to be, he wasn't entirely sure what job father did. In school, they had talked about their father one day, and Carl had said that his father was a greengrocer, which Bruno knew to be true because he ran the greengrocer shop in the center of the town. And Daniel had said that his father was a teacher, which Bruno knew to be true because he taught the big boys who it was always wise to steer clear of. And Martin had said that his father was a chef, which Bruno knew to be true because he sometimes collected Martin from school. When he did, he always wrote a white smooch and tartan apron as if he'd just stepped out of his kitchen. But when they asked Bruno what his father did, he opened his mouth to tell them, then realized that he didn't know himself. All he could say was that his father was a man to watch, and that Fury had big things in mind for him. Oh, and that he had a fantastic uniform too. It's a very important job, said Mother, hesitating for a moment, a job that needs a very special man to do it. You can understand that, can't you? And we all have to go too? Asked Bruno. Of course we do, said Mother. You wouldn't want the father to go to his new job on his own and be lonely there, would you? I suppose not, said Bruno. Father would miss us terribly if we weren't with him, she added. Who would he miss the most? Asked Bruno. Me or Gretel? He would miss you both equally, said Mother, for she was a great believer in not playing favorites, which Bruno respected, especially since he knew that her favorite he was her favorite really. But what about house? Asked Bruno. Who's going to take care of it while we're gone? Mother sighed and looked around the room as if she might never see it again. It was a very beautiful house and had 5 floors in total. If you include the basement, where Cook made all the food and Maria and Lars sat at the table arguing with each other and calling each other names that you weren't supposed to use. And if you added in the little room at the top of the house with the slanted windows where Bruno could see right across Berlin if he stood up on his tiptoes and held on to the frame tightly. We have to close up the house for now, said Mother. But we'll come back to it some days. And what about Cook? Asked Bruno. And Lars? And Maria? Are they not going to live in it? They're coming with us, explained Mother. But that's enough questions from now. Maybe you should go upstairs and help Maria with your packings. Bruno stood up from the seat but didn't go anywhere. There were just a few more questions he needed to put to her before he could allow the matter to be settled. And how far away is it? He asked. The new job, I mean. It is further than a mile away? Oh my, said Mother with a laugh. Although it was a strange kind of laugh because she didn't look happy and turned away from Bruno as if she didn't want him to see her face. Yes, Bruno, she said. It's more than a mile away. Quite a lot more than a mile, in fact. Bruno's eyes opened wide and his mouth made the shape of an O. He felt his arms stretching out at his sides like they did whenever something surprised him. You don't mean we're leaving Berlin? He asked, gasping for air as he got the words out. I'm afraid so, said Mother, nodding her head sadly.